Well, how's it going, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to episode 2 of the Z Roll Podcast.
We're back.
We are back. Episode 2. Pilot's out of the way.
Right.
So we are professionals at this point.
I feel like this could kind of be the real podcast first episode.
So we are not professionals at this point. That's what you're saying.
That was more of introduction. Like, let's kind of hear what this is going to be about. So pressure's still on.
Pressure's still on. So if you did not watch or listen to because you can watch it on our Z Roll YouTube channel, or you can listen to it where podcasts are. Mm-hmm. The pilot, we kind of just introduced ourselves and talked about what this podcast is going to be.
Right, we did. And
one thing I want to mention about this podcast is that it's pretty raw. We're not going to do any edits. Yeah. And so, if we mess up, we're going to roll. Mm-hmm. Just like if you were here with us, we wouldn't just be, oh, sorry, let me rephrase that.
Cut that. What I mean? Rewind.
Yeah. So just so you guys are aware of all of that, we want this to be raw, and whatever comes to our brains, we're going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, within reason, I guess. Anyway, and we talked about using those kind of words as well.
We did.
But of not using ums and ands is what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're watching us on YouTube, hello, we're waving at you on the camera.
Hello.
If you're listening to us, let us know where you're listening to us at. That would be awesome. And you can do that by going to our YouTube channel and let us know in the comments below. Yeah.
We switched up our angle, by the way, of filming from our first pilot. So let us know if you guys like this better or if you like the other one better. We're just kind of still, we're in that season of testing and trying.
We have no idea what we're doing, guys.
That too.
So we're going to start every single podcast out with an icebreaker.
Yes. And
so the icebreaker for today is, what is your favorite cereal? Or if you were a cereal, what cereal would you be?
We could always go both ways, right? Mm-hmm. Can I just stick with my favorite? Because I feel like it's going to get too deep with if I was a cereal.
Yeah, let's just do that. What's your favorite cereal?
Favorite cereal. Okay, so I feel like it's only fair to say my favorite cereals in categories, because you can't just pick one cereal, because there's kind of like healthy cereals. There's like the chocolatey cereals.
I thought this wasn't going to go deep. Like, I have mine already ready to go.
Okay. And then there's those like classic, like reminds me of when I was a kid cereals. Okay. So just putting that out there. Do you guys agree? Let me know. Comment below. So I think I'd have to go with Fruity Pebbles for just the nostalgia, like kid sugary cereal. I just love Fruity
We're not
Pebbles.
talking about diets. We're not talking about what you should be eating. We're talking about what your favorite cereal is.
Right.
You see what I mean? Like,
yes.
I feel like with adults, we have to be like, okay, we have to put our, okay, just so you know, like
our justification.
Yeah, our justification. We have to like put boundaries out. It's like, no. Like, if you could just have a cereal and there was no strings attached, what would you have?
Right.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah. And we just never have it in the house. So that sounds so good. And just reminds me of my childhood.
I wish we were eating Fruity Pebbles right now.
I know.
Like, just like throwing down on our podcast.
Right.
Okay. So are you done? You want to keep on going with this?
I'll be fast with my other ones.
You're doing more.
Yeah. Because if I want chocolate, I'm going to go actually Cocoa Puffs. Okay. Which is weird that I'm not going.
So you have a fruity category and a chocolate category?
Yeah, of course. Because if you need chocolate, a good chocolate cereal.
I mean, yeah.
And then if I'm feeling kind of like, I just need like, kind of a healthiest cereal, but it's still got some sweetness in it. Banana Nut Crunch.
Healthy? That's another question.
I know, right? Most aren't. Banana Nut Crunch, which I'm curious if it's still on the market, because that was something I grew up eating. So I'm going to actually go Google that when we get off here.
What's going to happen is we may get those at our P.O. box. No, they say that. It's funny.
I wouldn't complain.
When we mention something, like, it seems like we get it, and it's awesome. We love you guys. You guys are the best. Yes. We have the best community. We appreciate you guys. But
you guys hunt down syrups for us.
Seriously. We're like, oh man, our favorite syrup's gone. And then you guys are like, oh, don't worry about it. Here you go.
We got you.
Anyway.
Okay, your turn.
Mine would actually, this is hilarious because it's kind of in the healthy department, but not really. Mm-hmm. Just depends on how you roll.
Okay.
Is Life cereal.
Yeah, you always have liked Life.
I love Life. I don't know what it is. It's nostalgic, whatever, but I am down with Life cereal. But this is the caveat. I like it with chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Like, I literally like pouring chocolate milk instead of regular milk.
I've seen you do
inside
that.
my Life cereal, and it is chef's kiss.
Yeah.
So that's where I go. I stand by that.
Yeah.
I will never not stand by that because it's ingrained in my childhood.
You did chocolate milk as a kid in your life?
Oh man, do you know what I did when I was a kid?
I don't want to.
I got the little like the
Hershey's syrup on top.
Yeah, and I would just drench every single square.
It's like a dessert. Like, come on.
I'm not saying no strings attached. We're not talking about diets and healthiness, and we're talking about if you could just throw down cereal and you felt like you're in your 20s again or your teens, what would you do? You see what I mean?
I gotcha.
Like if I did that now, like the entire house would have. Well, and also. Like we're being real on this podcast. If I did that today, everyone would have to wear a gas mask.
For sure.
Like milk
does not do good with you in the evening.
Dude, in my 30s, my body's shut down. They're like, "Okay, you did way too much of that, and you ruined.
You're done.
You're done." Anyway, that's our icebreaker, and we are 5 minutes in, almost 6.
Okay, so last part of that though, I do know it is hilarious because one morning, Landon's like, "Dad, did you have cereal last night?" So. It's confirmed in our household. We're like, you can't do it anymore. It's just not.
I mean, are we going to seriously bring up tooting on our podcast? I guess we are.
Well, we're saying let's be real.
I hate the word tooting in the first place, but I'm not going to say now farting after I just did. But the reality is, it's funny, is tooting is natural. But what's coming out of me after having cereal is not natural. Yeah. So why are we here?
Moving on.
We're moving. We told you this is going to be real, guys.
Yeah.
So
we did.
This
topic today.
Yeah. You guys are probably wondering, okay, this is a weird title for a podcast.
Yes.
The cheese fight. But that is what we're going to be diving in today for the rest of our time here at the Z Roll Podcast.
It reminds me of a chapter in the Diary of a Wimpy Kids book. We've been reading those lately. Totally the cheese fight. The cheese fight. But it's a real thing that's happened.
It's a very, very real thing that happened.
Yeah.
So, and this is the thing with these podcasts, we're really not trying to be scripted. We're not trying to write things down and have like a layout.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our first time talking about this since the incident. Well, not really. We've talked about it since then, but this is the first time really diving in.
Right.
So here we go, guys.
Yeah.
So the cheese fight. This was our first year of marriage. Some people say that the first year of marriage is beautiful. I look at them and I kind of like twitch because ours was not beautiful. It was actually very tough.
Yeah.
The honeymoon area was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Not always is.
Yeah.
But after the honeymoon was done, the first year of marriage was actually pretty dang difficult.
It was pretty hard.
And I feel like if we got through our first year of marriage, we're going to be able to get through any years of marriage.
Yeah.
Because of how difficult it was.
We had to work through a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot. But just to back up a little bit to give you guys a little insight. So we're talking about our first fight. But it has to do with cheese.
Right. So in the context of the
you
first
guys
year
know
of marriage,
the context there.
This was the first fight because of how tough this year was.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I want to talk about is like, you know, our year was tough.
Right.
And this was the fight that kind of turned the corner for us.
Right. And
we started having a better relationship after this fight.
Yes, I agree. And I think to preface again, I want to say we did argue, you know, like during dating and marriage, but this was probably one of our first big fights that were like, wow, we really need to figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Needed to say that too. Like, oh, you guys never fought ever while you were dating and engaged? Yeah. Yeah.
But this was the one that was like, hey, we better change or I don't know what's going to happen.
Right. We didn't like
it wasn't going well.
What we were seeing.
So,
anyway,
so if you are about to enter into marriage and you're in your first year, like don't freak out. Like some first years are amazing, but I think this is a good time for you to get things situated and communicate. And they say communication is key.
Right.
But 100% it is. Hundo P. So the kids, actually we found out a really cool word this week.
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Drippy.
It's so drippy. But anyway, that I don't even know where I'm at because that word was so cool. It just like
I know. Thank you, Devontae.
Yeah.
We were just like, whoa, that is such a cool word. We were totally gonna use that.
One of our old youth kids came to church this last week, and he moved back to Idaho, which I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
But he's talking about my coat I was wearing. He's like, dude, that's so drippy. I'm like, bro, what?
We both looked at each other. We're like,
can you say that word one more time, please?
It sounds so cool.
It sounds so cool coming from you. Anyway, well, back to this. Yeah.
Okay.
So, if it's your first year of marriage, don't be alarmed. Just communicate, like just learn from our mistakes. So anyway, the first year it was tough. I think the reason why it was tough, well, I know why, is because we weren't communicating, but we didn't know how to communicate.
Right.
So I would say this was probably like 6 to 8 months into our first year.
Roughly, yeah. Maybe
it was
more 5 to 6.
It was coming to the, I feel like it was coming more to the end of our first year, because we really turned a corner after this.
That's true.
And things started getting better our second.
Yeah. Because we were in the honeymoon stage for a while, and it was just like so fun. Like
we bought a house.
We bought a house together.
And so things are good.
Yeah.
But this was not good. And we came from different backgrounds. I came from a family who communicated, probably in a way over communicated. With things, which I was so used to. It's just the over communication, never assume, assure kind of mentality. Yeah. Which I think is good.
Right.
And so I was always communicating, probably overly, especially because your background.
We did not at all. And it was very much just assuming a lot, and kind of just, sweep things on the rug a little bit.
Mine was never assume, assure.
Right.
And yours was just assuming.
Assume and don't communicate a little bit.
Assume and don't assure.
A little bit. Yeah.
Literally is what it was.
Yeah.
And so that's hilarious. That just came to me right now.
I know. Yeah.
This is why we talk about these things.
Yeah.
So that was what's going on. And so she would, you just want to talk about like just kind of like your communication or
lack of.
I wasn't going to say it.
It's okay. It's in the past.
It's in the past.
Liking. Okay, so yeah, I would just, for example, Justin would do something that was not in any way, shape, or form to hurt me, but it would. And rather than saying, "Hey, babe, that really hurt my feelings when you didn't like my dinner," just something. It could be something silly and dumb, but I would like hold it in, and I was just like, like I would just stew on it, and I was like, he doesn't love me, he doesn't, it just like go on for days in our mind with things rather than just like say how I felt. And so I would think of a million reasons why I shouldn't, and so I had a hard time, I mean, it's pretty plain, but expressing how I felt. Like I really did. And I would bottle things up, and I would hold them in, but not only would I hold them in, I would let it build and build and build. And I think we use the term time bomb, because then I would explode.
Lacey was a time bomb.
So
see what I did there?
That's not fun. That's not healthy.
It wasn't a wrecking ball, it was a time bomb.
Yes.
You get copyrighted for using that song.
So yeah, don't advise doing that. So that was my
So that was her thing.
You want to call it my thing.
And my issue again was, okay, when we got married, we made a commitment to ourselves, and that was that we would never brush anything under the carpet. Yeah. So we would deal with stuff and not let it just fester. Right. And let it just like, basically our illustration was you sweep things under the carpet. It hides it for a while, but eventually you can see a pile under the carpet.
It's gonna come out eventually.
It's gonna come out. It's gonna stink or whatever. And so that was our thing, right? Yeah. And so for me, because I like to over communicate, I would almost abuse that. Yeah. So what was happening is the reason why she turned into a time bomb is because I have wrecking ball stuck in my head, and I don't know. But the reason why is because I wanted to deal with it immediately, and she just wasn't ready. So in a way, I was kind of abusing that. Because
I did need to process things, and even though I had a hard time communicating, like part of it, even to this day, like now that I'm better at communicating, I still need like some time to process before I communicate, because I don't quite know what I'm feeling yet until I've had some time. And yeah, you would be like, let's work this out right now. And I'm like, I don't know what to say.
I'm the kind of person who's like, I just want to have a good time. Like I literally just want to move on, and let's start like just having life again. And so the fact that we were having a fight was just so frustrating to me. And so we're not talking about the cheese fight yet. This is just kind of what was been happening for that first year.
We'll get there, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get there. And so anyway, that was our two things. I would abuse that. I would just like come in too hot basically. And she'd be like, bro, I need time to process that. I didn't understand what that meant. I'm just like, why don't you just process it now and get over with it? So it's just this classic like husband and wife kind of, thing.
Miscommunications.
Just learning each other. Right nowadays, I know if I do something that pisses her off, ticks her off. Sorry if you're offended with that word. Some people are very offended by that word. Ticks people off, whatever. Yeah. The reality is like I give her time.
Yeah.
And she usually always will come around, and it's still hard for me. Like I still want to deal with it, but I just know that the conversations will be so much better and they'll actually be dealt with.
Right.
Because what I realized early on is when I didn't do that, you would still be angry the next day.
Yeah.
And we would still be frustrated at each other, and that would continue happening. And that's why our first year marriage was so hard.
It was.
Because it was snowballing.
Right. And you were like, I thought we dealt with this. And I was like, no, because I've just now come to the realization of why I was really upset to the core. Yeah. And it just took me some time. And you were like, but this is done. We're not going, but you know what I mean? So like you said, it was like a snowball.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was confused. She was confused. We're all confused. Right. And so we learned a lot about ourselves and just, giving space and actually dealing with it properly. And me, I was just really just trying to speed. I was being selfish because I wanted to speed it up and just get it done with so we can move on. But that wasn't right because she needed time to heal and process, especially if I did hurt her. Another thing that we realized in our first year of marriage, and maybe we'll do a topic all about this, but was like learning what arguing is and what it shouldn't be. I think there's times where I always heard my dad always used to say, or says to this day, like conflict can create creativity.
Right.
And I've always loved that because conflict,
it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
Right.
At the core, it needs to happen. That's how you grow. That's how we all grow in everything we do. If it's job, work, relationships, whatever. And so we've learned with our arguing is more of a conflict resolution. It's more of like, hey, we have this conflict. And we can get annoyed with each other and frustrated with each other because there's conflict. No one likes conflict. But we've learned that we realize, you know what? We both want to make this work.
Right.
We're both good people trying to make this work.
Right. And good things usually come out of it, even though it's hard with the conflict. With fighting, it's usually we just both end up like hurting each other. And that's kind of where
and that's what it was. And that's what maybe we'll do a whole podcast about the difference, because before I wanted to win the argument. She wanted to win the argument.
Yeah.
And it was a fight. Like we wanted to fight to win.
Right.
And that was ugly.
Yeah.
And you fought ugly.
Yeah.
And it was selfish. And we realized nowadays we're a team. If she's not doing well, I'm not doing well, and vice versa, because we're one. We're one flesh, right? And so we really believe that. And so the reality is we needed to change that. And there's no winner here. Just because I won the argument, I didn't win.
Right.
And so we've realized, okay, we need to come to a realization that we actually are arguing to better our relationship, not for someone to win.
Right, exactly. Like this conflict, we want to have good come from it, a good change, even though it kind of hurts a little bit because you're like, ouch, like, yeah, I do that. It's usually a lot of humility sometimes.
There's a phrase where they say it takes two to tango. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just a reality. Usually when we're in an argument, there's two issues. There's two things coming to the table. It's very rarely where one person was off, but it does happen.
Yeah.
There's sometimes where I'm just have a bad attitude, and technically she wins the argument because I have nothing to say. I'm just like, yeah, you're right. I was being a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think there is times when I guess you win, but the reality is we don't look at it like one's going to win. One's going to pin the other person down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it's more of a thing where it's like, I know you, this is not you, like what's going on, and you're just like, yeah, I know, I'm just like, yeah, this is kind of bothering me, or having, a crappy day, because in the end, it's like, I just want the best for you and you want the best for me. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that being said, that I think this is kind of like a big foundation of the cheese fight, because cheese fight's pretty fast story after this, but it's kind of what we were learning the first year. We're fighting to win. We were being selfish, and me trying to communicate, her, didn't want to deal with it, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So there we are. So we get home from Costco. Okay.
Costco.
I don't know why. Is that a jingle?
Should we make a Costco jingle?
We just sing about everything. Costco.
Yes.
So we got back from Costco and we bought a bunch of cheese. Now this is just the two of us. It was just us.
Yep.
And so when we buy things at Costco, when it's just two people or one person, it's a lot of stuff.
And mind you, we just got married. We had no money. So we were trying to do diligence in, like doing our best with our money and the little amount of grocery money we had every month. So so we bought our cheese at Costco in block. So we graded it.
So we bought
as you do to save money. And then I was separating it. and this is actually, you can step in here because this is your area of expertise on cheese.
This is the dumbest argument, but this taught us a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So I then decided to take the cheese and put it in separate Ziploc bags.
Okay.
Because I was like, okay, we're going to freeze a lot of this. And we're going to keep one in the refrigerator, freeze the rest.
Yep.
But me doing that.
I didn't even know you could freeze cheese, actually, by the way, when I was, first married.
Right.
So.
But me doing that really irritated her because she was in the kitchen, grating the cheese, doing her thing. And I come in and I just basically was just like, you're doing it wrong, basically, is what I said. I didn't say it like that, but I was just basically like, you need to put this in, put this in the Ziploc bags, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't communicate well. And she's just kind of looking at me like I'm an idiot because I'm in there just like putting cheese in a bag.
Well, I think I was just like grating it all and putting it in one big like gallon Ziploc bag and putting it in the fridge. Yeah. And I was like, they'll just have it forever. And then
I took it. I'm like, no, like we got to take these out and put them in Ziploc bags because we can freeze some of them. And, that's too much in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, realistically, that's a good idea when it's just the two of us.
Let's not go there.
Anyway, but the reality is this is what happened.
Yeah.
She got very upset. I remember her taking the bag of cheese, throwing it on the counter, and she's like, then you do it.
Yeah.
And then she just storms off and slams her bedroom door.
Yeah. Because I just felt like this was one area, because there was a lot of areas, I think, in the home. We just, like we share, we just bought a new home. So we had to do, we painted and decorated. And there's a lot of things that I was doing that you kind of micromanaged. And I
100%.
felt like I could not do anything in this house on my own, and it looked bad or it was wrong. So I was like, I give up by the time we got to the cheese.
When we first got married, I was, there's been a lot of growth since then. But the reality is I still am a perfectionist, but I was a micromanaging perfectionist.
Yeah.
I have dropped the micromanaging, and I'm still a perfectionist, but I have dropped the micromanaging.
Yes, I can agree.
But then I had it, and it was strong. And so anyway, she was in her room, and I was just like all frustrated. I'm like, oh great, like basically our night's ruined is what I'm thinking, because I'm like I wanted to just like hang out, like you know what I mean. And so I go to the room, and she locked the door.
Lock myself in the bathroom, because if I didn't lock the door, you'd be like opening and be like, let's talk about this.
Again,
like,
remember,
nope.
I wanted to deal with stuff immediately.
Right.
And so I'm like knocking on the door. I'm like, Lacey, and then Lacey's like, basically like, I am, like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm done. Like, I don't want to hear you, whatever.
Yeah.
And what I mean by done wasn't mean like done in this marriage, because we made a commitment we would never say those words, but it was just more like, I don't want to talk to you kind of a thing.
Not the done word.
Yeah. And so then, me with my Bible knowledge, I throw down a proverb down her throat.
Oh my gosh.
Which is the dumbest thing to ever do. The most self-righteous.
Worst.
And we can talk about that in a different podcast. But I was just like, well, the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger, which is a legitimate thing. It's legit for these reasons, because we don't want things to fester. We don't want to sweep things under the rug, right? But Lacey, with how smart she is and witty, she's like, have you looked outside, because the sun is down?
It was nighttime by this time.
And it was the funniest thing. And we both started laughing. We both just started laughing at that point, because it was just so ridiculous. Yeah. And then so she finally got out of the room. And I was, and
by the way,
laughing.
The bathrooms where like the key is like on the top ledge, those skinny little ones. Like, so, because I would lock myself in there, so Justin had to like get the key, and sometimes I would like hide them. Anyways, you'd always find a way to bust open the door.
Right. Yeah. Tucker just walked in. Hello, Tucker.
Hi, Tuck.
Oh yeah, those little skinny keys. Yeah. So anyway, so we started laughing, and basically what happened is we're like, you know what, like, we gotta talk about this. This is ridiculous. This is over cheese, and that's right. I was just in my brain thinking it was cheese. Classic guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, we're fighting about cheese. That's what I said. I'm like, this is so stupid. We're fighting about cheese after we're done laughing.
Yeah.
And Lacey's like, you're not getting it, Justin. Like, we're not fighting about cheese. And with me and my dense head, I'm just like, what do you mean? You slammed the cheese block down. We're fighting about cheese.
Right.
And then we started talking about the whole communication thing.
Right.
I'm being abusive with coming in too hot, like a wrecking ball, and I was wrecking you. And then I was able to say my case about, well, I'm so frustrated because if I don't do that, I feel like we never resolve it.
Because I can just hold things in for days. We can hold things in.
So I feel like if I don't do it now, then I'll lose interest because that will happen. Yeah. I'll just lose interest, but I don't want to deal with it anymore. So I feel like for me, I need to deal with it right away, or I'm just like, you know what, whatever, it's not a big deal. So there's this time that I have, and there's a time that she has, and we have to figure out before I lose interest, but then also when she's ready to talk about it. Right. There's a sweet spot.
That window.
And we were missing that sweet spot. We were missing that target. We weren't having a bullseye. Right. And so that is when we, for the first time, had conflict, and we ended up with creativity. Mm-hmm. We ended up realizing, okay, this is a real thing. This is an argument. I'm sick and tired of trying to win this argument. Mm-hmm. I want us to get on the same page. Yeah. You know? And so that's what we did.
Yeah. I think we finally were able to see things like, I don't know, almost like I look at visually, like take off my glasses and how I view it and like put yours on in a way and be like, okay, I can see what you're saying. And you could finally see what I was saying. So it was a huge breaking point there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we did this like marriage class a couple years later called Love and Respect, which highly recommend that. We've gone through with our church and it's great. But what they said was like, yeah, there's like sometimes you have blue glasses and pink glasses.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was from there.
And so like basically sometimes I have to like look through those glasses basically. Yeah. And I think maybe it was like headphones. I don't remember what the illustration was.
Well, they talk about glasses and the headphones because like you'll say something and I'll hear it a different way.
Yeah.
And
that's what
I'll say something and you'll hear it a different way.
Yeah.
Bye, Tucker.
If you guys heard that, Tucker just left. He's like in and out.
This is boring.
You gotta go back to Auntie. Anyway, so the reality is I was able to put on her pink glasses to see how she saw, and was able to put on the pink headphones and hear what she was saying for the first time in our marriage. Yeah. And vice versa. Mm-hmm. And that changed the way we fight and argue. Right. And I don't mean like using the words fighting. I like using words conflict. Yeah. Because now we have conflict to this day. Yeah. We had a conflict just the other day.
We did.
And it was over stupid things.
Driving.
It was over driving. But then we got home and I said, this is the reason why I was frustrated. And she's like, that makes complete sense. Right. I didn't realize that. Yeah. And then, but then I was like, but I didn't realize how that, and we were able, again, I've realized if she's not by my side and we're not one, life sucks.
Mm-hmm, it does.
And she's realized, hopefully, vice versa, that if I'm not on the same page with you.
Yeah, for sure.
At least like, it's the best.
But, who would I be?
I don't know. But the reality is I say reality a lot, but this is the reality, is we not only need to be on the same page, we need to be on the same word of the page.
You've said this to me before.
But it's true.
Yeah, no, you would tell me. You're like, we're on totally different books, but we need to get in the same book. Not only do we get on the same book, we need to get in the same chapter, and then the same sentence, and then the same word.
And that was the only way I could explain it.
Because we would always be on different, how they would say pages, but we were on different books sometimes.
She was interpreting things differently than I was interpreting. I'm like, where are we? Like, I'm reading an adventure book, and you're reading like I don't know, some whatever
dramatic
romance drama with a guy with a 6-pack abs just on the front cover. I'm just kidding, but that's kind of what happened. So that was the cheese fight. There's so much more I think into that, and we'll kind of branch off and talk more about marriage kind of stuff of what we've learned in the last 13 years almost. Yeah, come up to 13, right? And but I think that was definitely that turned a corner, because after that our fights were not so dramatic. Mm-hmm. They weren't so in your face. They weren't so like just evil, I guess, because it seemed like it was just we were fighting to win.
Intent to hurt the other.
That's what it was.
Yep.
There was intent to hurt,
and that's so
which was
evil
so messed up
and messed up. Because like you said, it's like I truly believe you're my best friend, and I feel like that. We are one. So it's like, why would you want to do that to your best friend, to the person that you've become one with? It is really messed up, and it's really sad because there are a lot of people in that boat, and I totally can see how they can get there. Yep. Totally can see how you get there, because we were on that track. Yep. And then we were like, let's take a halt and turn around, because it's like we could totally be there. And that's how I truly believe we're able to do this podcast today and this YouTube channel together today, because we can work together and we are friends because of what we've had to work through.
Well, I was going to say, because the conflict created creativity, not only was that in our marriage, but as far as our business, as far as our YouTube channel, we were able to like dream and create and brainstorm. And that it's been in every avenue of our life, like to like where we go travel, to what we do with our time, to all this kind of stuff. We've been able to really get on the same page and just create and have that, because it really has completely just like, you know, overflowed in other areas of our life. Not just our fighting, our argument really, you know, part. It overflowed to everything. Our kids, the way we do things, the way we spend our time, everything.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, we're at 30 minutes. Whoa. So we did it.
Yay.
But we will talk more about our marriage and stuff. But that was, I think we wanted to start with that because that kind of gives you guys a little insight of how we turned a corner. Yeah.
And just kind of a little bit of who we are, who we were in a sense. Just, I mean, it's a very, very little snippet, but just to kind of see, because I know some of you that watch us on YouTube, you know, you've seen us, and like, it's just like, we've talked about this before. It's always like the highlight reel, like, oh, everything's so perfect. And it's like, it's really not. And you do have, but we're not like we're saying we're fake, but we've had to work hard to get to the point where we can, you know, work together and do things like this and go through the different conflicts and stuff, and still, you know, have, you know, a good marriage, and also raising kids in the mix. Like, there's a lot going on in this household all the time.
Like, and just have fun, to be honest. Like, we've learned to have just a lot of fun.
That's another thing I feel like we could do a whole nother podcast on, because of the things we've gone through, and just like your upbringing, my upbringing, and talk about just like laughing through a lot of it has really helped.
I don't know if you guys can hear.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I know, that's why I stopped.
Hopefully you didn't hear the buzz. There was like there's a weird buzz in here. Okay. So if you're hearing that, guys, we're sorry.
It's like you need to stop talking.
It's like, you guys are done. Hopefully you guys can't hear that on your end, but we do hear that, and it's annoying.
I know. So
anyway,
wrapping it up.
But one thing I did want to say really fast was, like, we are still working on our marriage. Like, that will never stop. Why? Because we have different seasons and different times, and we're always constantly having to like look at it, relook at it, all that kind of stuff. And we have arguments all the time, but we've just learned how to conclude those arguments. Right. And not fight to win.
And I feel like setting that foundation is key, because it only gets harder in the sense of, it's like, wow, now we have kids in this mix. Like, how are we going to work through these things? And then it's like, one day it's teenagers. You know what I mean? There's always different dynamics. So setting that foundation. So if you don't start now, you're not going to start. You know what I mean? That's just the reality of that.
But anyway, all right, guys. Well, that was episode 2 of our Z Roll podcast. Let us know below what other things you want to hear about from us, what kind of podcast ideas. We do have a list, but we want that list to continue growing as well. Again, you can follow us on, you can actually go to ourzeroll.com or zerollpodcast.com or zerollproductions.com if you need some video editing needs or whatnot. But you can reach us all there for all of our information. Go follow us on YouTube if you're not watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, well, hello. It's good to see you. You can also comment below if you're listening to this in your car, if you want to answer or be part of this conversation or whatnot. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. A lot of fun.
It was.
So again,
it's fun reminiscing on the good old cheese fight.
The good old cheese fight. Good old cheese fight. Anyways, again, let us know below if you have any other ideas, or if you want to, again, talk more about this conversation and maybe, you know, share one of your memorable fights early on in your marriage as well. That'd be fun. All right, guys, we'll talk to you real soon. Bye.
Bye.